Yeah, 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 yeah.
I found it on Rhema Radio.
Welcome to Rhema Radio, the weekly podcast on faith, culture, music, and more. Today, we're so privileged to have with us Freda Liu. Hi, Freda.
Hi.
Do you feel like you're on BFM right now?
I feel funny because I don't have the headphones on me.
No, but you know what? Just listening to your voice coming through my headphones, I feel like I'm listening to BFM right now. Such a privilege and an honor to have you on our show. I don't think you need an introduction, and actually I'm going to ask you to do a self-introduction later. But just to give a little bit of background, of course, this is the famous Freda Liu, author. I got to say author first because it starts with A. BFM starts with B. Glad Tidings, that's your church, that's church you attend, that starts with G. And lastly, runner. You are a runner, and that's completely like trivia. That's completely from So tell us a bit about your running.
Oh, you're going to start with running. Okay.
Just joking.
No, which one do you want to start with? In the beginning?
In the beginning, like
the word.
Yeah, sure.
In the beginning, in the last century. So my history is I was born in Brunei.
That is something that I bet very few people knew. Maybe except your BFM colleagues.
Yeah, unless we're Facebook friends, then you would probably know that. So I was born in Brunei. My parents are Sarakians, but they met in Brunei. So Dad used to work for an oil company. I mean, there was only one oil company there called Shell. And so I was born there, and I was there till I was about 14. So that was my history. That was all I knew.
So your childhood has been shaped by
very
Brunei,
much so.
By your life in Brunei.
Life in Brunei. This is a very different Brunei to I guess what people know now. It was still a British protectorate at that time. The kind of I think what really influenced me, if I just want to talk about one thing, was the radio station. There was one particular radio station that was just available where I was born because the British forces were there. So they had this station called the British Forces Broadcasting Corporation, BFBS, British Forces Broadcasting Service. And that was my influence, listening to the kind of music, the kind of conversations that they have. So that was the first 14 years of my life. It was such a small station that even the Bandar Sri Begawan doesn't get it. It was just and at the school that I went to, it was a missionary school called St. Margaret's. So it was a great growing up. The classmates that I have was everything from, people from Sabah, from Sarawak, from obviously from Brunei. We had Gurkhas, we had Filipinos, we had Brits, we had Aussies. So it was just, this was what I saw.
And it was away from the hustle and bustle of
very much so.
KL, of PJ, where you are
now. When I was where I was living, behind my house was the recreation club. So like after school, it'd be 5 minutes walk, you go for a swim, and behind the club, right, is the sea. And sometimes I'll go to the sea, and I look back now, oh my goodness, so dangerous, I was by myself.
Yeah, but you know what? The picture that you're painting, at least in my mind, is like an idyllic childhood.
It is. So it was great. Then Dad had to retire, and then we went back to Kuching. I mean, we had a choice. Mom was from Miri, and Dad was Kuching, and we said, okay, let's go back to Kuching. And he has been away at that time over 30 years as well. So it was a real retirement. Of course, we have aunts and uncles and all that, but it was just coming back and then me having to start a new life.
Yeah, culture shock.
It was culture shock. It was a culture shock. For one thing, because living in Brunei, everything was pretty much free. Right? You don't have to pay for electricity and all that. So when you come back to Malaysia, I said, you mean you have to pay for the electricity bill? So that was, turn off the lights.
I'm sure you've gotten over that part by now.
Yes. Now that I have to pay the bills, yes. Yeah, you don't know where we were. Maybe because when my dad was working for Shell, so we didn't have to. Right. So, anyway, then after that, moving on to Kuching, I was there for about 4 years until I finished my high school there. Mm-hmm. Then I worked for 1 year at the Kuching Hilton. That was my first job as a receptionist whilst deciding what I wanted to study. 4 years went by. I mean, it's still very much a part of home because Mom is still there.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's home, yeah.
How did you get your start in media or, radio?
Okay.
Because everybody knows you for that. I mean,
yes.
And I understand you're a bit of a reluctant participant.
Okay, when I look back and I recognize the things that I enjoyed growing up, was taking part in doing drama, debates, anything that involved communication. So you realize that, but you just sort of kept it aside. What happened was that after I graduated from Australia, studying in Australia, then my dad was very ill, and I had to come back to take care of him in Kuching. During that period, I had a friend who asked me, say, hey, there's a TV show in Kuching, you want to audition for it? I said, my dad's very ill. I said, I don't have the time. My dad passed away, and a couple of months later, my friend said, hey, you want to audition for this thing? I said, what is this thing that's happening for so long what's this all about? And why haven't you found anyone? So I said, anyway, just come for the audition. And it wasn't even an audition. I met up with this guy, and we just talked, and he said, oh, you got it. I said, oh, okay. I know
that was easy. It was so natural, right? You were a natural fit.
We were not, so we were just chatting, right? And then after that, so this is fresh after university, and I did I'm not a broadcast journalist. I did a business degree in marketing. And then after that, when I did the show, the realization, I later found out that this was a live telecast. And many years ago, I don't know if they still do this, the RTM, and what was then, now it's MediaCorp, what was then Singapore Broadcasting Corporation, they get together every 2 years to do a live show. And I think it's their government relations kind of exercise, right? So 2 years in Singapore and then 2 years in one part of Malaysia. And that year, it happened to be in Kuching. So they had a male host that spoke in Malay, right? And then they said, then RTM Kuching insisted that the female host could speak English, and that it was a Sarakian. So it was a case of being in the right place at the right time.
And everything just worked out, and you were on air before you knew it.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Now I want to ask you about how, you felt God guiding your life and your career especially, right after this.
Rhema Radio.
Hi, I'm Marianne from Scripture Union, and calling all youths, students, Christian fellowship teachers and youth workers throughout Peninsular Malaysia. If you are interested in how you can be starting off a Christian fellowship in your school, or if you're trying to seek to help your youths to grow in the knowledge of God's Word and to develop a love for Scripture, if you are a Christian fellowship teacher and you are struggling in finding resources to help to teach and guide your students in God's Word, then look no further. Come and visit our website today at www.su.org.my for more information.
Rhema Radio.
Now, Freda, we were talking about how you got your start in media, yeah, and share with us some experience that's close to your heart. That looking back, you realize that was really God guiding you, although maybe you might not have known it at that time.
I am still in the process of discovery, but I feel that God has put me in the marketplace to be of influence, right? And I know, like when we talk about the 7 pillars, how media is so important. And of course that, when I was talking about how I got an audition, and that led to my radio and TV news during RTM. But at full time, I had a job in public relations and working for a major IT company for a long time. So I was doing this, I was hashtag dua kerja for a long time, yeah. Hashtag tiga kerja at 1.2, so, this was a matter of survival. And I remember there was that one time when I was working for that IT company, and it was a very good company, technology company. It was very good. And I was doing 6 roles and 11 years was there. But the last role I did was really something I didn't enjoy, right? And very frustrating. It was, and they know it. I mean, it's a very, it's not, it was just one of those things, right? And because I was pushed to work, and there wasn't anything else that was available that I enjoyed. So when you were pushed to a corner, then suddenly I had this call from a friend of mine, said, there is this new radio station that's come about. And I say, what's that all about? And she said, it's new. It's going to be talk. It's going to be about business. And I was very intrigued about this idea because I wanted, I've always enjoyed radio. If you go back to my experience, but I didn't want it to be radio just talking about music, right? I wanted radio to be a little bit of, I don't leave my brains behind kind of thing,
So like something of substance.
Something that uses both my skills and in such a way that because I've had that broadcasting experience and that corporate experience, that it marries both of it, right? And to join this startup, it was a pay cut. Right? It was a pay cut. It was unproven. We don't know whether we're going to survive, but I don't know why there was such a yearning in my heart to join. And it was, it's everything, it's everything that you never, it's not stable, because I've always worked for, a nice MNC that was stable and everything. So it wasn't stable, but there was this yearning in my heart to just do this and make an impact. And I think one of the things as we moved along in that station, apart from it being a business station, it was also about encouraging people to be more open-minded, to have more discussions, to have, to be able to discuss and have a discourse without it being personal. I think that was one of the things that was and that's what, if you want to talk about being a developed nation, that we should move in that direction. So that was the underlying reason where I went there. And I have a personal interest in business.
Did you spend a lot of time in prayer, maybe, especially, make that decision, or the first few years where you weren't quite sure what was going to happen? Because you say it's a bit unstable compared to
It's a bit unstable, but you know how God opened and closed many doors, right? So he closed certain doors, and then how he opened certain doors was like, I was still, it's one of those Gideon thing, is it? So I said, God, I'll go if you give me some sort of assurance. And what happened was that my previous company gave me a 2 years leave of absence.
Huh.
Yes, 2 years leave of absence, and said that, and so they were still,
to do what?
So 2 years leave of absence while I could work at BFM.
Oh.
Yeah, so they were still paying for my medical
so
and my
they knew
dental.
about it.
So,
Okay.
but they were still paying for my medical and dental.
But
and
they must have really liked you.
they were, I tell you, it's a good company, right? So even 6 months before my leave of absence was due, they said, you want to come back? I said, no. But it was just this, like, everything was like, okay, if this doesn't work out, I still have this, right? And it's
Okay, I'm sorry, I've never heard about that. They must have really liked you.
I'm very blessed and very favored. I know that wasn't, and if I didn't have that, humanly, I would say I wouldn't go. But God said, okay,
So
I'm
you
sure.
had that kind of assurance and
Assurance lah.
that net.
That net, but it was a very human thing, right? But it was just like the common sense in me said, I won't go if I don't have that. So he must have given me that.
The Gideon prayer work.
Yeah, the Gideon prayer work. It wasn't wet at the side, right? So he did everything, and then after that, it was the first 2 years, of course, the new station, new concept, people don't know much about it. But then I guess when you leave that your comfort zone, right? Then you realize that, hey, there is a bigger world out there, and you find that your purpose comes along the way.
Wonderful. So share with us, either in media or even, before you were in media, what are some of you would consider your highlights or even the lowlights of your career?
Okay. There are many. I mean,
I'm sure highlights many more than lowlights.
I'm not talking about career. I'm just talking about life. I think one of the most difficult things was having to go through the end of my marriage, right? And that was a very difficult thing. But I think through that period was when you knew for once you have no control, and that someone else is in charge of your life. And when you have that blessed assurance that someone else is in charge of your life, somehow there's that peace. Circumstances don't change, but hey, there's someone else who's got
Control.
And
that gives you,
for
again,
someone
that security.
who's always been like, let me be in charge, right? I'll talk to you, God, when I need you. That kind of person, to know that, hey, for once you have no control, but he is in control. So for me, I think that was but from there, you also, that's when you really put your faith in God, that you see his hand in everything, and you look back and say, wow, this is where you've come in, this is where you have changed course, or opened doors or closed doors. And that's when I think when you go through the valley, then you really realize how God has been there for you. Yeah.
Okay, how about any highlights that you can recall?
Too many highlights, too many highlights. I mean, I think like the people that I've met, the people that I've interviewed. Now, people ask me if there's a favorite interview. I think for me, every interview that I have done, I learn something from every interview that I do. Okay, that's how I look at things, right? Anybody you meet, so you learn. Every day I go to work, what am I going to learn today? But a particular highlight would have to be Nick Vujicic, just meeting him and talking to him, and you would have heard his story 1,000,001 times when he speaks.
Yes, but how did you pronounce the last name again?
Vujicic.
Okay. Just reading it in print, Vujicic, you don't get a sense of how it's properly pronounced. And it's only now that I realize that I'm pronouncing it wrongly all these years lah.
There you go. See, you learn something new every day.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's a good highlight to point out. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about, the advice that you have for those who aspire to be in the media right after this.
Rhema Radio.
Hello， 大家好，我是威尼和云妮。那要时常记得扭开 Rhema Radio 的 Podcast 哦，因为听了这个电台之后，你的身心灵都会得到满满的祝福。
Hi there. Are you striving to build a kingdom business? If you are, come and join us at the Incubator. We are here to transform the marketplace through multiplying biblical entrepreneurs. Visit us at our website. It's called www.the-incubator.com. It's incubator started with an E-N.
Now, for those who have just joined us, we are still with Freda Liu. Freda Liu, the author of BFM, of Glad Tidings, and also, I just have to add this in here, the runner. The marathon runner, right?
Yeah, done it once, but then now I can claim I got the title.
You've actually run a marathon.
I'll be a one-hit wonder. I haven't thought about making it two hits yet.
It's okay. Slow and steady. Now, we were talking about your previous career that you embarked on before you came into media. We were talking about how you got into media and how you felt that God was guiding you into media because, maybe it was your gifting, your calling, and you had an interest in it. Now, what kind of advice do you have? There's a lot of people who want to be like you. Let's face it. There's a lot of people who hear your voice on BFM and think like, wow, if only I could have this kind of impact on others, if only I could be like Freda, and they look up to you. Yeah, especially because of maybe the communities that you're in and just the number of people that you know. Your name is pretty much a household name. So what advice do you have for those young people who aspire to be in, what would you call it, in the media?
Okay, see, as I was saying earlier, this was never a dream, right? And when this was never a dream, and I know that I enjoy the whole concept of storytelling. First of all, a story. Are you curious about other people's life? I think that's the basic. If you want to go into this area, do not do this for the glam.
Because there's none, is it?
It's never been about that. If there is a yearning in your heart for it, you'll know. God will place it in your heart. He knows the desires of your heart, and this wasn't even the desire of my heart. So but maybe He knows deeper than me, right? About what my desires are. So when you want to do a career in this, be prepared to do a lot of work, right? You don't come and start in a station and think, I'm going to go on air tomorrow, right? Because that's what you hear. There's a lot of work that goes into the kind of radio that we do, right? Because there's a lot of interviews, there's a lot of research that we do, the kind of questions that we do. Don't ask, so there's listen to other people, learn from other people, right? Even to this day, I still listen to how people do it another way. How do they do their questions differently? How do they speak? Because English is still not our first language, it's still not our first language. So little things that we don't pronounce correctly, are we always learning? So when people look at me now, this was a journey that started over 20 years ago, right? So nothing happened overnight. If I feel that I've contributed to my show, on BFM, okay, yes, God, thanks to God, yes, but it was a combination, the fact that I've had broadcasting experience and the corporate experience to give it a bit of depth, right? And it's a hashtag dua kerja. Are you willing to learn other things and do other things on top of what you're doing right now, and do it because it's not about the money, right? If you have a genuine interest, it will come, right? And even in that process also, you will find your niche along the way. I find that over the years, right, business interests me. Right? That whole concept interests me. I like the whole concept of social enterprises, and that's a process of discovery. I like women, the issue, the concept of women. And when we talk about women, are we getting about equality? And there's that fine line, I know, when we talk about it. But these are things that I found along the way have defined me. So sometimes you don't know your answer today as well. But when you get your an opportunity to go into this area, learn all aspects of it. So if you don't get the job, hey, as a presenter, what else can I do? What else can I learn, right? Maybe there's a role in production. Maybe there's a role in something. Let me get my foot in. And when you're the most prepared, right, when the opportunity is there, you're the first person people think of. And I know that it's, if I had gotten the role at BFM, it's because I was most prepared. Who knew that when I was doing the hashtag Dua Kerja, that a station like BFM would crop up that involves business knowledge, that involves broadcasting experience? Who knew? Right? So it may be because some research has shown that 65% of jobs that will be available are jobs that haven't been, invented yet, right? So there are many ways to go about doing it. Find your area of interest, be real, be authentic. That's one thing, because it's very difficult to live your life not being authentic. It's very difficult because, you have to, so, and then find that niche. Because I like just one example. I've got a friend, she works she talks about saris. Okay, she talks about saris, and and who knew? She started blogging and she started talking about saris, and then she's got a huge following. Who would think, right? But then the people love it. You've got your niche audience and that's who she is, because she wears the saris every day, right? And that's being authentic to who you are. So not think about what's mass appeal, so just find that niche, and
be passionate about something, be passionate about a lot of things even.
Be passionate, and then it may be a process of discovery of what you're interested in. So like I've done so many things to find out that, hey, I don't like it, but I've tried it, I don't really like to cover a particular area, but, I've tried it, and to know that it doesn't
suit you.
Doesn't suit me. It doesn't connect with me.
Right.
Right? It doesn't connect with me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But you got to try it in order to find out.
You got to try it as well, and then it's part of work as well. So sometimes you have to do something that's part of work, like you love what you do. There's going to be one thing I don't like to talk about, or there's this thing in IT right now. It's about blockchain. I'm like, what is blockchain?
Okay, I don't even know what
right?
that is.
And nobody, I still am. I'm still like discovering it, but you got to learn about
I know
it.
cloud computing.
And cloud computing. So blockchain is the next thing, right? I see you learn something new on this.
Oh my gosh!
But there you go. You don't like it, but then you don't understand it.
But
right?
you got to you got to evolve.
You got to evolve. You got to evolve, right?
Otherwise it wouldn't change.
And knowing if you're going to be in this industry, you've got to be very well versed, lah.
Good points. Final question. Where do you see yourself in? I know this is the job interview question. Where do you see yourself in the future? I don't want to say in 5 or 10 years. It's not a job interview. Where do you see yourself in the future? Doing something different or something similar to what you're doing now?
Seriously, I see something visual. I don't know what it is. And this is something I feel that God has placed in my heart. I don't know what it is. It doesn't have to be a TV. You know how now you got YouTube or whatever, but I just see something visual. Other than that, I really don't know. My journey has been pretty much on a day-to-day thing. I have goals. I have plans. I do these things, but I've also learned to trust God that sometimes some doors close, some doors open, and I'll just go with flow.
One step at a time.
One step at a time. I still enjoy what I do. I'm with this organization for now close to 9 years. Who knew? Now 9 years already.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the station has been around for 9 years too.
Okay.
So I just see something visual. That's all. But I love writing my books. I love doing these things. What God wants me to do in the marketplace, I'll have to, really listen out to what He wants me to do, and maybe it's that bridge where people are able to connect to me, right, because of what I do, and be that light lah, if I have to be, so I don't know.
Okay, well, thanks. You know what? I really appreciate your time with us today. It's been a pleasure to meet you. Finally, not just hear your voice on BFM. And by the way, in case you're listening on to this podcast, this is Rhema Radio. Rhema Radio.
Rhema Radio.
Yes, this has been Doreen Tang interviewing Freda Liu for Rhema Radio. Thank you so much, Freda.
God, you are so, so good. There is just none like you. You make me sing out loud for joy. Lord, I'm so grateful. Jesus, your love for me, like nothing I've ever seen. I lift up my hands to praise your name. Oh, how I love you. Every time I'm in your presence, I can't help but overflow with gladness. myself in you, oh God. Make all my hopes and dreams come true. Only you are worthy, Lord. All I want to do is to shout my praise to you. God, you are so, so good. There is just none like you. You make me sing out loud for joy. Lord, I'm so grateful. Jesus, your love for me, like nothing I've ever seen. I lift up my hands to praise your name. Oh, how I love you. Every time I'm in your presence, I can't help but overflow with gladness. You are so good and merciful. All I want to do is to stand and worship you. Delight myself in you, oh God. Make all my hopes and dreams come true. Only you are worthy, Lord. All I want to do is to shout my praise to you. You make everything beautiful. You make all things new. You are ever so wonderful. You are always good. You make everything beautiful. You make all things new. You are ever so wonderful. You are always good. You make everything beautiful. You make all things new. You are ever so wonderful. You are always good, and you make everything beautiful. You make all things new. You are ever so wonderful. You are always good. God, you are so, so good. There is just
This segment's
none
episode features music from X Church. Today's episode is recorded by Moses Chan at Prodeo Studio, edited and mixed by Veronica Ng. We would love to hear from you, especially if you have a testimony to share. Write to us at hello@rhemarad.io. Stream or download new episodes weekly on Friday evening. Don't miss out on the sermon, To Love is to Honor by Sister Maylin sharing at New Life Restoration Center in the next segment. If you were blessed by this week's episode, share it out.
Oh, how I love you. Oh, how I love you. Jesus, I love you.
Rhema Radio is a non-profit initiative by the Love Malaysia Media Project. Time, talent, and treasure is put into creating the content you listen to. Your support enables us to keep this going and expand further. Log on to www.rhemarad.io/support to find out how you can partner with us in creating value-adding content that ministers to the masses. Once again, that's www.rhemarad.io/support. www.rhemarad.io/support. Let's get the word out there.
You're listening to Rhema Radio.